Mr. Sullivan, I've seen the news reports this morning about your boss's letter to the Attorney General, in which he says that Facebook is very committed to end-to-end encryption, is very committed to its users' privacy. I have to say I have a question or two about that, however. You said earlier in response to Senator Durbin that Facebook doesn't share data outside Facebook, but yet the FTC has reported, and indeed Facebook has been fined, not enough in my view, but fined, for doing precisely that. Let me just remind you, the FTC has reported that Facebook in 2014 told developers on their platform that they could continue to collect personal data for a year. After that period elapsed, Facebook continued to provide developers with access to data for years to come. FTC says it took Facebook at least until June of last year to stop providing access to data, to this personal data, certain third-party apps. So maybe you could clarify your
I'd like
statement.
to clarify. I'm sorry. What I thought the question was do we sell messages from Messenger kids is what I was trying to answer earlier. So I didn't mean to conflate that we don't have a developer program where third-party developers, and I understand what you're referring to with the FTC. So I was referring to the Messenger kids message content only.
But just to be clear, Facebook has collected and shared personal data outside of Facebook, correct?
I wouldn't want to rehash the whole FTC thing that you're talking about, but what I can tell you is that over the last several years, but especially recently, the way that we collect and manage metadata is really changing. And I appreciate, I just want to refer to a letter.
Actually, that's all. I'd rather you not. And I would just note for the record that at this late stage, after all that we have been through with the FTC, after the fine, which I say again I think was not nearly enough, that was levied, you still won't answer that question? Yes. It just amazes me. I mean, did they send you to school to evade our questioning? Why can't you just say, yes, Facebook has collected data. You have shared it with third-party developers. You were fined for it and probably should have been fined more based on your answers today. Let me ask you a few other questions. Will you commit to me today that Facebook will not use any metadata from your supposedly encrypted messages for purposes of targeting advertisements or building profiles on users? Yes or no?
Senator, the question of metadata is what we're actively working on. I read your letter of May 14th, I believe, and our response to that letter. And I think your
response was equivocal. You wouldn't commit one way or another. So I'm giving you a chance now.
Yeah, it's still early. So when we announced that Messenger was going to be encrypted, the reason we did it around 2 years ahead of.
Wait, it's still early, meaning you haven't decided?
So let me lay out what I think kind of the core trade-offs and issues.
No, that's okay. I don't want to hear the trade-offs. Okay. I just want to hear where you are. So have you decided? It sounds like to me you're keeping open the possibility of collecting metadata and using it even on supposedly encrypted messages.
Metadata, part of what is the metadata is what's going to help us keep children and other people safe. So when we have encrypted communications, part of the metadata is what we will use to prevent bad actors from contacting children in the first place, from detecting, say someone's tried to contact multiple minors in a short period of time. We can immediately ban them from our platform to keep children safe.
Okay.
So there's a balance.
I'm going to take that as it sounds to me like that's leaning to yes. How about this? Will Facebook swear off any other future or present efforts to find workarounds to get information about the nature of users' encrypted communications for ad targeting purposes?
So, Senator, take Messenger, which is what I focus on. We don't use the content of people's messages today to target ads, even though Messenger is unencrypted.
And you won't try and figure out what links they're sending in order to target ads? You won't try to gather other information?
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
Once it's encrypted, so today we have the ability and we don't use it for targeting. In the future, when it's encrypted, we won't even be able to see people's content, which is part of the goal of encryption. Is people don't want Facebook looking at their messages either.
And you won't attempt to for instance, reverse engineer what links people are sharing over encrypted messages?
We won't be able to. We won't be able to see the message content.
Will you promise not to target ads based on information you can retrieve from shifting AI to the device, from the cloud onto devices?
So within Messenger, we won't be seeing the content in the cloud or in transit, as we call it, nor will we be scanning the content on the device. So we won't we won't be able to, we won't have access to it to run any algorithm on it, because we believe that we're trying to create an end-to-end system of trust, not just on the server. So we don't plan to look at content on the client either. So, and that would include, any uses.
I see my time has expired. I'll submit as a question for the record, the question for Professor Tate, and maybe for all of you, which is that when it comes to building back doors onto the devices, as you've talked about, Professor Tate, as one possible solution, I think my big question is, how does one do that without making it easier for entities like Beijing or Russia to gain access to that device? I think that's a big concern. Thank you, Madam Chair.